from Coach Thurman last year. I was kind of struggling, and just him just reminding me that it's okay to be thankful and think about all the good things you have in life and all the good parts of your game has really helped me a lot. Like whenever I'm feeling bad about my game or in a bad mental spot, I try to just focus on like one good shot or one good part or something positive to kind of bring me out of it and have something to like hang on to and move on to the next shot.
My name is Andrew Smitte. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Success with Smitte podcast. I got a super awesome guest here today. His name is Ryggs Johnston. He is a golfer at ASU, and he's been top 3 at the NCAA D1 Championships. He has the second best NCAA Championship round in school history, just under Jon Rahm, and he has the 7th most eagles in his season in his school history, where he had 8. He has 3 top 10 finishes this past year at ASU, and he's an NCAA All-American and All-Conference. And he's won almost every tournament that he entered in the Montana junior ranks. And he posted 3 rounds of 67 or better in the regular season, and also won 4 state championships in high school. So, Ryggs, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. So yeah, just tell us a little bit more about yourself, like how you got started or anything I might have missed.
Yeah, I mean, being from Montana, I get a lot of like questions asked how I got started in golf and how I made it here to one of the top college programs in the country. And I don't know, it's always a tough answer because I just started watching golf, watching Tiger Woods when I was really young. I got my first set of golf clubs when I was 2 and just kind of fell in love with the game after that. And I would hit balls in my front yard when I was really young. My dad would sit in like a lawn chair with a 5-gallon bucket of balls and just tee them up one after the other for me. And I just kept hitting. And I don't know, I played a lot of other sports growing up too. I was a big basketball player. I liked baseball. I kind of liked anything to do with sports. So golf just seemed like that's kind of the one that was the best fit for me and turned out pretty good so far.
Yeah, so where's your family? Like, were they pretty big golfers too? Or like your dad, was he a golfer? Is that kind of how it got started, or?
My whole family golfs, but we're not like huge golfers. I mean, they're decent at the game, but they're not great. We just kind of played it recreationally starting out, and then I got pretty good at it. So we thought, hey, we should start going to tournaments, and decided later on like that I wanted to try to play college golf. And so we got a little more serious and started traveling to national tournaments. And then I did pretty well in those and started getting offers and taking visits. And I committed to ASU when I was a sophomore in high school.
Okay. Oh, wow, that's awesome. So, man, they're getting you, scouting you out pretty early then, it sounds like.
Yeah, the rules were a little different back then with the recruiting process. So golf especially was doing it really young. So I took my first visit when I was in like 8th grade, I think.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny.
So.
But so I know Jon Rahm, like he's like a pretty big golfer, like pretty well known. Actually, you know what's funny is that when I was preparing for this podcast, I actually have like I do a little bit of sports betting just like for fun, and I actually have a bet on him right now to win. I forget what tournament's going on right now, but
Dennis, he was up by 3 last time I checked, so hopefully he'll pull it out.
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, so I know obviously Jon Rahm, he went to ASU. Are you going for any of his records right now?
I mean, he set a pretty high bar for any of the records. I'm a little late in the career to maybe get some of those, but I mean, a career like he's got is amazing, and it's what every golfer who comes to ASU aspires to do, is to be like Jon Rahm. So that's definitely a goal, just to be successful in the rest of my college career, and then have a pro career that can get close to his at least.
For sure. Well, you weren't too far off of one of them, like the NCAA Championship one. You're like pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really fun tournament. That's probably one of my highlights of my career, was having a chance to win that. Unfortunately, came up just short at the end, but still, that was a big tournament for me.
Yeah, that's exciting. So how do you? So I know like in golf, well, I mean any sport to be honest, you obviously like have to get in the zone. But like I feel like in golf, it's a lot more like detail oriented a lot of times. And like, how do you get yourself like in the zone, like right before you like hit your ball or do your putt or whatever the case is?
Yeah, I would say golf is so much different than a lot of the other sports like swimming or anything. You kind of like run on adrenaline, I feel like, and once you're in, and you don't have too much time to like think in between
Hmm.
every aspect. In golf, you hit like one shot and then you might wait 10 minutes before you do it again. So there's a lot of time to just have your thoughts going on in your mind and just trying to quiet all those thoughts and just focus on the the present is one of the ways I try to prepare for every round and every shot is just try to stay in the present and not try to wander too much with my thoughts.
Hmm. Do you feel like you kind of go in and out of the zone between like your shots, or is it just like a constant being in the zone the whole entire tournament?
I would say you go in and out a little bit. It's pretty tough to maintain that level of focus for 5 hours.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of relax a little bit, maybe talk with a coach about something not even related to golf in between shots, walking up the fairway. Like we'll talk about what it's like back home or what's going on in the world or classes or something else just to kind of take the stress off, I would say. Because if you're just super laser focused for 5 hours, you're going to really wear yourself out, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. I could see that. Does it take a lot more focus, would you say, to hit like a putt versus a drive? Because I feel like in a drive, there's a lot more room for error. Like you can kind of like make
Yeah.
up for it, but like in a putt, it's like if you don't hit this right, like it's gonna mess you up.
Yeah, for me, I feel a little bit that way. The driver's like a full hard swing. You're just, I mean, it's kind of the same thing every time, and putting changes so much, pretty much based on the distance and how it's breaking. So there's a lot more variables, I feel like. So you gotta kind of really focus more on the that part. But
Hmm.
I don't know, every shot I try to give 100%
Hmm.
regardless.
Definitely. So I know obviously like between shots, like let's not every shot's going to be like a great one, you know. Sometimes you may have a bad shot, and how do you keep that from affecting the rest of your like the whole golf tournament or like affecting your next shot? Like what do you do to I guess set that aside and just carry on like nothing happened?
Yeah, that was always one of the tough things for me in junior golf and growing up, and I really improved at that once I got to college, and the coaches helped me a lot with that. And it's hard. You just gotta realize that there's a lot more golf ahead of you, and it's in the past, and there's nothing you can do about it. And all you can do is try to go hit the next one as good as you can. And
Hmm.
one of the you hardly ever hit a perfect shot in golf. One of the
Hmm.
ways like you win a tournament is to hit the least amount of bad shots. So
Oh yeah, that's
kind
true.
of it's kind of the motto out there. It's not too positive, but really the guys that win on tour like Jon Rahm, their bad shots are just better than everyone else's.
Hmm. That kind of reminds me of like a there's this book called Go for No, and it's a book about sales, and they say like if you
Mm,
get to like instead of most people they go like okay how many like yeses can I get in sales and stuff like that, but this book kind of reverses the psychology of it is if I go for no like the word like for people declining me or like not wanting what I want, and once I figure out like how many no's it takes to get a yes, then those no's don't seem as bad, you know, like they're it makes
yeah.
it like what's I guess like you can track it better and it's like okay someone said no it's like okay no worries like that's just one step
Yeah.
closer to being getting my yes or getting my sale.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I feel like I'm pretty good at on the team is just hitting good enough shots. Like you don't have to do anything flashy to win a golf tournament or play well. You just got to hit a lot of shots that are good enough and just keep grinding away throughout the day.
Hmm. And just like focusing on the fundamentals. I know that's something Michael Jordan always preaches about is just mastering the fundamentals. It's so key.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. When I like get into a pressure situation or have a shot that I'm a little nervous on, I try to just remind myself that hey, I've done this thousands of times before, and I have the the fundamentals are there. So just hit it with confidence and realize that you've hit this same shot over and over again. So why not do it now?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Kobe Bryant said something like that too. I'm a big Kobe Bryant fan. I don't know if you watch a lot of basketball or not, but
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant said something
Yeah,
so similar.
one of the like I don't know interesting facts, non-golf facts, is I actually played high school basketball and I have the Montana State 3-point record for the
Oh,
most
really?
3-point in a
Oh,
high
dude,
school
that's
career.
awesome. Nice.
I played a lot of basketball in my when I was in high school. I miss it. It's
Yeah,
fun.
I used to play basketball too. It is really fun. That's besides swimming, that's probably like my favorite sport. I would say was basketball.
Yeah, it's a little more like different than golf, like competitive, and you can kind of like go hard, and the emotions are high, and I don't
Hmm.
know. It's you can kind of let it all out.
Yeah, it's a different beast.
Yeah,
So,
when you
did you
get the
have
team aspect.
for sure? Did did you have like someone in golf that you really look up to, or I mean, I know you mentioned Jon Rahm, or is there someone even outside of golf that has inspired you in golfing?
Yeah, I mean Tiger Woods is
Hmm.
always like he's my number one. He's my favorite golfer for sure, as a lot of
Hmm.
guys would say. And he's that's kind of who got me into golf. I just loved watching. It was like Tiger in his prime when I was
Yeah.
like pretty young growing up. So I wanted to be like Tiger, along
Hmm.
with a lot of other junior golfers. So that would be who I look up to, at least golf wise, maybe not personal life wise.
Hmm. What did you what are some things that you learned from Tiger? Like as far as like on the mindset side, like what are some things that you picked up from him?
Yeah, I mean, he was, I mean, unbreakable emotionally. Like you couldn't rattle him, and he just had that like killer mindset. Like him and Michael Jordan, they
Hmm.
just when they got a chance to win, they won. So
Heck
I
yeah.
just think that's amazing because it's so hard to win, to have someone that can do it over and over again, and they walk up on they got a lead or they're near the lead, they know they're gonna win. They just have that mindset.
Hmm. Yeah,
That's a good thing to aspire to, I think.
definitely. So I'm not like the most knowledgeable guy on golf in general. Pretty much I just go to the driving range like maybe once every couple of months or something to hit some balls. That's about my experience of golfing.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like, how do you guys account for the wind in golf? Like, let's say it's like a really windy day and you're driving. Is there like a tool you use, or you just kind of have to have a feel for it, or how does that work?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of wind is just feel. I mean, obviously we'd try to hit like lower shots into the wind, and if you got a big wind left or right, you just try to flight the ball to eliminate as much variables as you can, because the longer the ball's in the air, the more the wind's going to hit it. So just try
Hmm.
to keep the ball low. And we practice those shots on the range, whether it's windy or not, regardless, trying to hit the hit different shots with different trajectories and different curves.
Mm.
So
Okay.
I would say we actually just got back from Hawaii. The tournament got canceled. It was so windy, but
Oh, geez.
we played around anyways, and it was like 40-mile-an-hour winds with
Oh,
50 mile an
dang.
hour gusts. That it's you got to use a lot of imagination when you're playing in that kind of wind.
Yeah, I can see that. That does sound pretty crazy for a golf tournament.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I lost the hat
oh, you
in the
did.
weed. Just it blew off when I was hitting and went like 100 yards away, and we couldn't find it.
Oh gosh, that's funny. What would you say is like the hardest part about golfing in general?
Just being all right with losing all the time, and honestly hitting a lot of kind of bad shots. I mean,
Hmm.
every round you kind of think like, man, if I would hit this shot or made this putt, and just like being okay with yeah, focusing on the good shots. That's probably one of the toughest parts, I would say, at least for me, because
Hmm.
I'm kind of I like to be a perfectionist in everything I do in life. And after every round, it's like, man, if I just could have like done this better, I could have saved shots there and there. And but that gives you something to work for too,
Hmm.
practice.
Yeah, I'm the same way, dude. Like, in swimming if something didn't go my way or like I had a bad turn or like whatever the case was. I'm like, man, if only I could have done this better. If I'd have taken one more dolphin kick or just finished like a
Yeah.
teeny bit harder. But I mean,
Yeah.
in the moment though, it's like there's nothing you can really do. Like you know you're giving it your all in that moment. But it's always like, what if? Like, what if I would have done this or done that?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Hmm. Uh, is there any like so I know like especially in basketball there's like a lot of trash talking and like getting into people's heads. Is that a thing in golf at all? Like do people ever like man hey like don't miss this putt or something like that as you walk by?
I mean, not ever when you're playing like a college tournament. When we're just playing with like the guys and the team around or whatever, there might be some of that just for fun, but no one
Hmm.
it's not like meant maliciously ever. But I would say
Hmm.
I've never encountered that in a golf tournament really, or something that was serious.
Yeah, like because I wasn't sure if there's any like I guess is there any ways that you can that you know how to get into your opponent's head sometimes like even if it's not really like saying anything but like something to give yourself
Yeah,
like the psychological edge.
yeah. I mean, there are. I'm not the type of person to like really go for that because it's
Hmm.
just not really part of golf. It's more like a
Hmm.
football, basketball thing, I feel like.
Yeah.
But you can like play at different speeds. Like if you know someone likes to play fast and you take a long time,
Mm.
that can kind of frustrate people. I've actually
Mm.
I get frustrated with slow players. Sometimes I gotta tell myself like, hey, just let it go. It doesn't matter.
Hmm.
It's just stuff like that. But there's not really too much to that. Everyone's pretty friendly out there,
Hmm.
just trying to focus on doing their own thing.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. What do you think
Yeah. And then
are, sorry, go ahead.
if you like if you're doing that stuff, you kind of get a reputation and
Oh,
you're not
yeah.
very well liked around the
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That's true. What would you say are some like the biggest lessons that you've learned from golfing?
um man, there's probably a lot. It's kind of tough to think of like them off the top of my head, but I would say one of the biggest lessons I've learned, at least in the last year, is just how good it is to stay positive, like how that can help in golf and kind of your own life is to focus on the positive things that you have every day.
Hmm.
Like one of the things our coach um, he gives us a paper and has us focus on, as we call it, the three H's, and it's happy, humble, and hungry. And there's
Mm.
principles with each of them, and just remembering how like nice it is to be a college athlete and play golf. Just being
Mm.
grateful for that, focusing on the positive things has really helped me, I think.
So tell me more about that. You said it's happy, health. What was it? Happy, healthy, and hungry.
Happy, humble, and
Oh,
hungry.
humble,
I actually
humble.
have them. I got a picture of them on my phone right now. But like one of the Coach Thurman, our head coach, his big deals is not only like bringing up good golfers, but bringing up like good young men once they graduate college.
That's
And
awesome.
so, like for humble, one of the things is we have is understand you're part of something bigger than yourself. Like we compete for ASU, and your actions speak for not only yourself but the school as a whole. So
Mm.
just remembering that every time we go out there and in everyday life. And then like for hungry, one of the things that helps that I've tried to focus on is what you want most is in your future, not your past. Just
Mm.
trying to like it gives you something to work forward to, and hopefully like know in your mind that you're trending upward, and if you keep
Mm.
working hard you'll get there.
Dang, I
And
like that a
then
lot.
yeah, yeah, and one of the happy ones is bring enthusiasm and inspiring energy and fill your mind with greatness every day. So
Mm.
that's kind of helped me a lot lately too. I've been following some Instagram accounts with just some motivation
Hmm.
stuff and try to focus on that while I'm practicing or
Hmm.
just stuff like that.
That's really cool. I'm gonna have to start using that or like looking. You have to send me like that chart maybe that
Yeah,
you
I'll
have.
send you a picture of it
Yeah, that's
once we're done
cool.
here.
Um, so I guess also like how do you approach the details in golfing? Because kind of like I mentioned before, like I know golf is like a very detail oriented sport. So like how do you approach the details?
I mean, it's pretty tough sometimes. I feel like there's so many different aspects to golf because I mean, swimming is you're in the same pool kind of all the
Hmm.
time, so it's more like you got to train your body just to like be able to go faster.
Hmm.
I'm not an expert on swimming, but that's like it's a different type of training in golf. It's like some people play well at some courses depending on what type of course it is and what the winds are, and so just preparing for that every week, and trying to develop a strategy on what the best way to play a course is. Like if it's windy, we might practice a lot of like low shots and that type of thing, and what type of grass it is. But there's so many different parts of the game you can practice. It's kind of
Hmm.
tough to practice them every day, but I try to practice my driving, irons, wedges, chipping, and putting as like almost every day to try to just keep up on those.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. What do you like? What about outside of golf? Like, what do you do outside of golf that helps you in your sport?
I think growing up playing other sports helped me a lot, like playing basketball and baseball
Hmm.
as a younger kid. I think that not only helped just with my overall athletic ability, but also just so I didn't get burnt out
Yeah.
at a young age. I know a lot of kids that play one sport just 12 months a year every day. By the time they get to college, they're like, "Oh man, I feel like
Hmm.
I've been doing this for too many years already." And
Yeah,
I don't really feel like that. So I think that
that's
helped
good.
me a lot when I was younger.
Definitely. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of a common thing in a lot of sports is a lot of people that start really young, like as I hear it a lot in swimming too, like a lot of these people that I used to train with and stuff like that. I started pretty late in swimming. Like I only started when I was 14, but a lot of
Mhm.
people that I trained with in college and even like in California, I was telling you about before, like some of them are like kind of burnt out. Especially at my college, there was a lot of people who are like, I'm just doing this for the scholarship. Like I don't actually want to be here, and
Yeah,
for me, I'm just like, really? I was like, man, I'm hungry, man. I'm ready to go. Like every single day, I
yeah,
love it. So it is. I feel
exactly.
like I almost have an advantage on in like that aspect of it is I haven't done it
Yeah,
my whole life. Um, but yeah, definitely, I think when you play other sports when you're younger, I definitely could see how that can play a big part of not getting burnt out.
yeah. And being from Montana and not even being able to golf like 4 or 5 months out of the year,
Yeah,
probably
it's
five.
true.
I mean, people ask like how I got good, but honestly, I think it might have helped me in the long run. Maybe in the short run, I wasn't quite as good of a junior golfer as I could have been if I'd have lived somewhere where I could golf all year round. But now that I can golf all year round, I feel like that my potential goes up a little more,
Hmm.
especially when I still am hungry and still enjoy the game, not burn
Yeah,
out.
definitely. What are some ways that you have fun while you golf? Like, how do you make golf really fun for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to just play with your buddies. Like our team's really close and we're really close with the like recent graduates that live around town. Most of them do. So we'll just go out and play with them and play like games on the course. So
Hmm.
that makes it pretty fun.
Or what about like in like tournaments or like practices and things like that?
Yeah, practice is probably just we have a lot of competition, so it stays pretty competitive, which I enjoy. I'm a really competitive person, so that keeps
Hmm.
it interesting in practice. And then tournaments, I don't really know how like you make tournaments like fun, but like just
Hmm.
being able to compete and get a result is that's the fun part to me. I think have the
Yeah,
opportunity to go win whenever you play a tournament. Every tournament's a new opportunity, so that I think that's pretty fun.
for sure. Have you ever met Tiger Woods before, like at a golf tournament?
Uh,
Oh
no,
man.
I wish he would play in the waste management someday,
That'd be
but
really cool.
hopefully someday I'll meet him.
Yeah. What about John? Have you met him?
Yeah, yeah, I've seen John quite a bit. He still lives around in Scottsdale,
Okay.
so and he comes down to our practice facility every now and then. So he's a cool guy.
Yeah, I was curious if he'd ever like reached out to you and kind of been like almost like a passing the torch, like, hey man, like you're crushing it right now, like keep up the good work or something like that.
Yeah, not quite that, but he'll come around and say hi to you guys.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's a busy guy. So
Yeah. What's I guess like looking forward? I know you mentioned it a little bit, like you want to go pro with your career, but like what are some of your goals this year?
Yeah, this year, of course, I want to be an All-American again. I wasn't last year after a really good sophomore year. I kind of struggled junior year, but I played pretty good in the fall, and we're just getting started kind of in the spring. So I'd like to be an All-American and play well at nationals again. I don't really have too many goals. I try to I don't know, not put too much pressure on myself and just go out and do my best. That seems to
Hmm.
be what works for me.
Hmm.
Actually, in nationals, I remember talking with my coach, and we before the nationals where I took third, and we were just like, no matter what happens tonight or this week, my only goal is just to stay positive and have a good attitude, and
Hmm.
that's all I focused on, and kind of the results came.
That's awesome. Yeah, I
So
feel like that's a all around in sports as well. I've with a lot of people that I've interviewed, like Grant and Julian and stuff, is they always do their say like they have their best performances when they're either like having fun or like just being themselves.
yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, as a team, I want to win Pac-12s and nationals,
Right.
but I think we can do that, and that would that would be nice. But for individually, I think just keep working hard and have a good attitude. That seems to be what helps me.
Hmm. That's awesome. So like so then let's say after college you said you want to go pro, right?
Yeah,
Is so for golf, is there like a like for pro tournaments, do you have to like qualify for them or like how exactly does that work?
yeah. It's different than a lot of other sports. You turn pro, and then based on your amateur ranking, you could get certain starts in tournaments, but it kind of depends like what agency you're with and like how connected you are and how highly ranked you are. But the standard, like without any of that, is you go through like a qualifying school, and then the top so many people from the qualifying school make it to like the Corn Ferry Tour, which is like the stage below the PGA Tour. And then
Mm,
you play well in the Corn Ferry Tour, and then you make it to the PGA Tour, pretty much.
mm, okay.
So for some people, it's a pretty long process.
Hmm.
Some not so long. Like one of the guys I played on the team with a couple of years ago is on the PGA Tour right now. One of the guys that graduated last year got his Corn Ferry Tour card this year, so he's doing
Mm,
really well. But
mm,
some guys don't make it to the Corn Ferry Tour or even the PGA Tour until they're like 30.
mm,
You just got to keep trying the Q schools, and hopefully you can Monday qualify into tournaments, which is pretty tough. Like they have like two spots where a bunch of people go try to play one round and qualify for
mm,
that week's event,
mm.
and then you got to
So
play well in the event.
yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, because yeah, I know. I've always been curious how that works because, like I said, I'm not like I don't know a ton about golf besides going to the driving
Yeah,
range a few times. So I didn't really, I never had someone to talk to about that. But that's really interesting
yeah.
knowing how that
I
works.
mean, even I don't know like all the it's a complicated system, like what starts you get and when, and like what kind of status you have on the different tours. But that's kind of the basic gist of
Hmm.
it. It's like Q School, Corn Ferry Tour, PGA Tour.
Okay, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
how did, or I guess like what made you decide to go to ASU? Like when ASU, I know you said they're kind of scouting you early. What made you decide to go there? Because I'm sure you had other schools looking at you as well.
Yeah, I was looking at kind of the Pac-12 schools, but ASU kind of always been one of my number one picks because my grandparents actually have a house in Mesa, so I'd been down here
Okay.
quite a bit, and I
Hmm.
like the area, and I knew we have one of the best practice facilities in the country that wasn't built when I was committed, but I knew that it was going to be built. So
Mm.
I knew that was coming. And then when Coach Thurman got the head coaching job, he was at Washington before that, and I'd heard really good things about him. So it seemed
Hmm.
like a really good fit. The area, the practice facilities, and the coaches, and this is just one of the golf meccas, Scottsdale area.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of the things that because you told me you had some like really good teammates that you've had. Like, what are some things that you've learned from your teammates that have helped you?
Yeah, a lot of like practice routines and like how the best players practice and how they go about thinking on a course. Like one of the Chun On Yu is on the PGA Tour. His last event, he just finished top 10 actually. A couple of farmers at Torrey Pines.
Hmm.
So he was amazing to watch. Like no matter what the shot was for, no matter how he was playing, he was 100% focused and gave everything to every shot.
Hmm.
Didn't matter if he was making a 7 or a 4. He was giving it his all, or when what type of round it was, and
Hmm.
just seeing that day in and day out, it kind of melts into the rest of the guys around him. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
So just like setting like a really good example for others, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, he's
Hmm.
just I mean, if you practice and play with the best players, you're gonna get better for sure. It's kind of like
Yeah,
if you swim with the fastest guys, you're gonna swim faster.
exactly. Kind of like we were talking about before. Like you're the average of the people like the 5 people you spend the most time with, pretty
Yeah,
much.
exactly. Yeah, pretty
Hmm.
much.
Yeah.
So that's been really cool having such a good team every year I've been here because I didn't really know what to expect when I got here. I just like
Hmm.
we had these goal sheets and I like wrote that my goal was to like qualify for one tournament out
Hmm.
of like the 12 that we had. And I ended up playing all of them, but
Yeah.
just like being able to practice with really good players all the time was something I'd never had before back home because
Hmm.
I'm from a small town, so there was not that many like very good golfers where I lived.
Hmm.
So that helped me a lot, just
Yeah.
learning from them.
So do you guys have a lot of like coaches meetings? Because I know when I was talking with Grant and Julian, they're talking about how they have like meetings with the coaches like a couple times per year, and then they go over goals and like talk about training and all that stuff. Is that the same with golf?
I mean, I wouldn't say we had like specified like meeting times. Our coaches' offices are like at our practice facilities, so we see them like every day,
Hmm.
and they'll whenever just stop by and talk, like if we need anything or if they want to meet with us, like kind of informally, usually.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's goal stuff, but usually we like know our own goals, so they don't worry too much about that.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I wouldn't say we meet with them too often. Like before every tournament, the whole team like meets with the coaches before we're around to like discuss kind of the strategy and what we want to do for the round and what our principles are, and just kind of remind us of that.
That's yeah, that's cool. Well, do you guys use a lot of like visualization?
Yeah, I mean, I try to like one of the things I've kind of been working on is trying to like before I hit a shot, kind of visualize what the shot is going to look like and where the ball is going to
Hmm.
fly and that type of thing. I've never really gotten very good at it, so I need to work on that more, especially like putting, kind of visualize where the ball is going to go. But I think
Hmm.
if you can get good at it, it can help a lot because if you can get that image in your brain, even if like I don't know, your body's not working right, it kind of like subconsciously helps you do like execute it.
Right. Yeah, well, I was reading a book a couple years back. I can recommend it to you. I think I have it somewhere over here. I don't know. I'll have to look for it after the podcast. But I mean, it's geared towards swimmers, but that's how I learned how to visualize. It's such a good book. It's called Between Two Lanes. She was
Hmm.
a Olympic silver medalist in 2008 in the 200 freestyle, and yeah, it was in 200 freestyle. So she was a swimmer, obviously, but the same principles apply in probably any sport or whatever you do. But one thing that she talked about is like, let's say, for example, if you're going to do a box jump, and like right before you do that box jump, you like picture yourself just feeling super light, like seeing yourself exploding up onto the box, like with ease and stuff like that. And then you go and do that rep. Most likely, it's going to be a better rep, or like a really
Yeah,
solid rep versus like if you're just to go and do it. Like you'll
yeah,
get more
yeah.
quality out of it.
One of the things like the coaches help me with a lot, like during the round, is like say we're putting and Therms will like just ask me questions that'll help like get that visual in my mind. Like, hey, where do you see this ball rolling over? Like, how much break do you see? What type of speed do you see? Like, those type of questions just to help me
Mm,
create that like visual image.
mm. Yeah, I could see that, especially like when you're putting. I could totally see visualization being like a super important thing, especially
Yeah,
when like it comes down to those like really um, like the finest details.
yeah, like those important putts that they get harder to hit. So having every
Mhm.
little advantage you can helps.
Yeah. What are some other things like that you've done that have really helped you improve the fastest on the golf course?
Um, I like to like play a lot, and that's
Hmm.
like how I think I get better playing than just like practicing and hitting balls on the range all the time because
Hmm.
every shot playing kind of like gets recorded in my brain more than like if I were just to hit 50 balls, maybe
Hmm.
they don't mean as much. So I think being down here and just being able to play a lot of different courses and with good players and all the time has helped a lot.
Yeah, I definitely feel like when you compete, it's like pretty much like the fastest way to learn versus like
Yeah,
if you were to only practice and maybe compete like a couple times a year,
yeah,
I feel like you're not going to be as good compared to if you still obviously you have to practice, but like if you're competing consistently, because then it's a different environment, like you're saying, like you're playing with people that are really good as well, or maybe even better than you. And then like you
yeah.
kind of have to step your game up, like the pressure's on and stuff. Like you don't get that pressure in practice.
Yeah, exactly. I 100% agree with that. Like playing tournaments and you don't feel the type of pressure and like if you hit a good shot in a tournament, it really registers in your mind a lot more than just if you hit a good shot, even like during a practice round or on the range.
Hmm.
So it really lets you know what you do need to work on
Hmm. Definitely.
for a tournament.
Yeah, that's one thing I feel like I've been kind of. It used to be a big struggle for me back in like when I first got into college with my swimming. Is like I'd have a bad race and I'd be so like annoyed about it, like the whole meet, and I'd be like, "Gosh dang!" And like I wouldn't accept failure for like what it was as like a learning opportunity at first. I was more just like frustrated that it happened, and I still was like, "Man, I can't wait to get back into practice and like freaking swim my butt off and like get better." But I was just like
Yeah,
dwelling on it too much and not seeing it as like, okay, this is good. Now I can see the things that didn't work for me, and I
yeah,
could make adjustments from there.
yeah. There's a lot of learning opportunities in golf because you lose a lot, and that's usually where you end up learning the most. So
Hmm. Exactly. Michael Jordan says something like, I watched an interview with him. I think he was with Stephen Curry, and they're on a golf course. I'm pretty sure when they were doing this interview, and Michael was saying like so Stephen Curry asked him like, do you hate losing or do you love winning more? And then he's like, well, I hate
hmm,
losing, but I respect losing because like you have to lose to win. Like that, it's like a part of the process of winning
yeah,
is losing. That was one thing
exactly.
I love that he said.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Hmm. But before we wrap this up, what advice do you have for like other golfers or just in general, maybe people like coming up in any sport?
I would say just like like competing against as good of players or as good of athletes as you can compete against is huge. You might be middle of the pack or bottom of the pack at the start, but if like you're able to keep working hard and keep competing against those players, you're going to improve a lot
Hmm.
faster than if you're just competing against people where you're the best all the time and you win all the time, or you're not competing at all and just kind of practicing.
Hmm.
So one of the things that helped me was just getting out of kind of my comfort zone in Montana and competing in national tournaments where I wasn't the best golfer ever, really. So
Hmm.
I think that's huge.
Definitely, I love that. That was something that I feel like I've always kind of been like the underdog in a lot of places that I go to start off with. Like when I started off in high school, I was like the worst on the team, but I always have kind of like this underdog story. So like in high school, I was the underdog my freshman year, and finally like I worked my butt off for the 4 years, and by senior year, I was like the fastest on the team and got like a couple school records in high school, and then in college, I went into college and I was like one of the worst guys on the team at first, especially my kick was terrible. Like it probably was the worst on the team. And then by like the end of my senior year, I was like the fastest guy on my team, had the best kick. And so I don't know, it's kind of like, it's fun to think back to, but it is very humbling at the start of it. And oh yeah, this is like actually kind of a funny story. When I went to California, there were some really, really good female swimmers that I was swimming with. And like normally when you think like okay, so guys times are normally a lot faster than female times just
Yeah,
because obviously men have like a physical advantage over
yeah,
women like strength wise and stuff. And so but these women, like, they're swimming faster than me, and I was like, it was so frustrating at first because it was so humbling. I'm like, how am I getting beat by a girl? There's like the whole ego thing as well
yeah,
that comes in. Like, no, I can't let a girl
yeah,
beat me. But then it was funny because I remember finally, like, I got to the point where I was like, okay, I finally can say I'm beating all the girls in practice consistently, and I was like, yes, I can finally, I finally beat all the girls. But
yeah.
yeah, I don't know, it's just kind
One
of a
of the
funny story.
one of the big mottos for our team is like to embrace the challenge. Like one of my favorite quotes is if it were easy, everyone would be great. So
Yeah.
being able to embrace the challenge of it not being easy is part of the journey.
Exactly. Man, you actually this is like a perfect lead into like the next thing that I was gonna say. So at the end of every podcast, I always ask some speed questions, and you actually kind of already just answered one.
Uh,
The one of them was about like, what is your favorite quote and why?
oh yeah. Yeah, that would for sure be it. I can't even tell you how many times my swing coach from back home has told me, well, if it were easy, everyone would be great. So glad that it's difficult.
Yeah, exactly. Another speed question is, what's the best piece of advice you've got that's impacted you the most?
Man, probably with from my from Coach Thurman last year, I was kind of struggling and just him just reminding me that it's okay to be thankful and think about all the good things you have in life and all the good parts of your game has really helped me a lot. Like whenever I'm feeling bad about my game or in a bad mental spot, I try to just focus on like one good shot or one good part or something positive to kind of
Hmm.
bring me out of it and have something to like hang on to and move on to the next shot.
I like that. So it sounds like gratitude has like really helped you a lot.
Yeah, I think so. It's I think it's pretty important to be humble. Like I've always been pretty good at like the humble part and but gratitude and being happy is it's definitely been, I don't know, a little tougher. I kind of beat myself up quite a bit and tend to focus on more on the negative, but when I started trying to really focus on the positive, it kind of turned my game around, I feel
Mm,
like.
that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Next question for the speed questions is, what book do you recommend everyone should read?
Oof. I think we read a pretty good one. It's called Atomic Habits.
Oh, that's a
Um,
good one. I've read
the
that.
team, yeah. Yeah, that one
Hmm.
was pretty powerful. Like if you can get yourself to do all the little things like over and over again, it can have big changes.
Hmm. One thing I love about that book was when he talks about when you're developing a habit and like you break it down to like the simplest form. So like let's say if you're to like let's say your goal is to run like a 5 mile race or something like that, and at this point you haven't done any training, like you haven't even ran once yet. And he says start with the simplest form of the habit, like just put your shoes and like your running clothes out, and then even if you don't even have to run that day, but just like set them out, get into them, and then just like that's it. And then next week or next day, whatever, then maybe go for like a little walk around the block, and then you incrementally increase like what you're doing, and then eventually, it's not like such like a big thing. Like you're not just dropping
Yeah.
all this on you at once. You just slowly work your way into it.
Yeah. Getting 1% better over a long period of time is can mean a lot.
Exactly. And then yeah, do you have any like shout outs or call outs?
I don't know. I mean, shout out to Julian.
Yeah.
He's been a good friend of mine, and he's obviously doing really well in his sport. So that's cool to
Mm-hmm.
see. And shout out to Sun Devil Swimming being number
Yes.
one.
Heck yeah. Good stuff. And where can people find you if they want to connect? or like keep up with your
On
journey?
Instagram, huh?
Or I say, yeah, if they want to connect or like keep up with your journey.
Oh yeah, yeah. On Instagram, Ryggs Johnston is usually where I spend most of my time posting and that kind of thing. I'm not a big Twitter guy. I have a Twitter,
Hmm.
but I don't really use it. So
Yeah, I don't
Instagram is the
have.
main place.
Awesome. I'll put the link to that in the description too, so people can find you a lot easier. And yeah, I'm not on Twitter. I think I made a Twitter and then I used it like twice, and I was like, I don't get this. This is dumb. I deleted it, and then I re-downloaded it like a couple years later and had the same experience. So I think in total I've had it for like
Yeah,
4 days, but I'm not really a fan of Twitter.
yeah. I'd never go on it. And I go on it and I just click like load to the top, and that's it pretty much.
That's funny. But
See like
yeah,
two
man. Thanks for hopping on the podcast, Riggs.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was fun.